Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump appears to be freaking out at special counsel Jack Smith over the latest filing from the special counsel in the election interference case. The filing, which runs more than 180 pages and has evidence and documents, is under seal, at least for now, but it is available to the Trump legal team. And Donald Trump presumably has been briefed about it, and he is lashing out at Nancy Pelosi, the former House Speaker, over what he says was her role in January the 6th. Watch.
And she should also be prosecuted for J6 because she turned down 10,000 or any number she wanted, soldiers or National Guard.
She should be prosecuted because she turned down military troops. Well, Nancy Pelosi says that offer was never made to her, but this is important because for Donald Trump to obsess now, and here we are 5 weeks before a presidential election, and he's obsessing over January 6th and putting the blame on House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, the former House Speaker, on the very same day that special counsel Jack Smith is trying to prove to the court that no, Donald Trump took actions that he knew were personal in nature, not in his official capacity. But if Donald Trump can somehow say and convince the court, no, I asked Nancy Pelosi and others for troops, well, then he might clear the hurdle of saying that this was an official capacity. And based on the Supreme Court, then he is immune. But if the court finds that no, Donald Trump was warned ahead of time that you lost the election, and Donald Trump believed it, and that Donald Trump also didn't give some sort of formal notice or make some sort of request or offer to Nancy Pelosi about troops, then his argument is essentially starting to fall apart. And by the way, on the very same day that special counsel Jack Smith filed his brief, here's what Donald Trump did on Truth Social. He erupted. Trump said, "Shocking breaking news as exposed by the great John Solomon, a real journalist who cares about the truth." By the way, John Solomon might as well be a Trump propagandist. "And the great work of Congressman Barry Loudermilk and Republicans in the House Oversight Committee, the deep state chose to disregard my direct authorization of at least 10,000 National Guard troops to ensure that Washington, D.C. was safe and secure on January 6, 2021. These deep state subversives disobeyed the president's directives, which would have prevented any unrest that day. January 6th, that it is known, would have never taken place." He's talking about January 6th. He's freaking out because special counsel Jack Smith is providing evidence and documents that the public has not seen, which probably takes this case and makes it even stronger for the government than any of us even know. But now Donald Trump's lawyers know that he is in some trouble over all of this. And so what Donald Trump is trying to do, and I think his lawyers are also doing this in their legal briefs, is they're trying to make the case, no, this was an official action because Donald Trump offered to provide some troops and authorized Nancy Pelosi to use National Guard troops. And if he can show that to the court, then it becomes official and Donald Trump becomes immune. Likewise, you're starting to hear some of the Trump supporters say, Donald Trump believed on January 6th that the election had been stolen, that the election was rigged, that the election was fraudulent. And so he was simply in his official capacity as president trying to take some actions to slow things down. But if the special counsel can prove, as we suspect he will be able to do, that Donald Trump was told repeatedly in November and December of 2020 that he had lost the election, and that Donald Trump confided to others that he knew he had lost the election, then his actions on January 6th, not only do they become criminal, but they become personal in nature. And anything that is personal, Donald Trump can be prosecuted for, according to the Supreme Court. Anything that's official government business in his official capacity as president, he has immunity. Well, again, special counsel Jack Smith filed the 180-page brief at the court. It's not clear when this is going to be released to the public, but again, Donald Trump's lawyers have seen it. The judges now perhaps read part of it. And here's the readout that we've gotten about all of this from CBS News and correspondent Scott McFarland. Watch.
This is now in the hands of Judge Tanya Chutkin, who has the discretion, potentially has the discretion, to unseal this and release it for people to read, at least sections of it, maybe unredacted sections of it. But here's what we know is included. The special counsel has said in its court filings, this is going to be about 180 pages. By federal court standards, that's enormous. That's huge. They needed the judge's permission to file so much, and they did so over the defense's objections. And in court proceedings CBS News attended, the special counsel's prosecutors said this is going to include exhibits, things that may have been before the grand jury, may have been part of the FBI investigation. It may have revelations, things we don't know, despite all the exhaustive investigations of Trump's alleged efforts to overturn the election. The Department of Justice has a little more leverage, a little more bandwidth to investigate than that congressional committee did. So we've been working under the assumption that they have a bigger plate of things to choose from as they try to show the judge what they're going to show a jury if this goes to trial. Remember, Nancy, the whole premise here is the Department of Justice has to convince the judge they can plow ahead with this case, despite the limitations put on it by the Supreme Court giving Trump some form of presidential immunity.
Okay, so there's the legal parameters that Donald Trump and his legal team are battling over, and that is trying to get the case blocked by somehow proving, oh, Donald Trump should have this immunity because this was an official government action. But let's go back again to that argument that Trump seems to be making, that his friends are making, that, oh, Donald Trump was absolutely convinced. He thought on January 6th that he was taking official actions to slow down the election results. Again, if the special counsel can convince the judge, no, we have this evidence, we have briefs, we have emails, text, whatever it is, phone calls, testimony to the grand jury, that Donald Trump was told he lost the election and that he acknowledged he lost. Not only does that really hurt him badly in terms of the legal case, because it means that Chutkan will say, no, you're not immune. This was a personal action, not a presidential action, but it also could kill him politically. Because imagine if the storyline starts to emerge, if this goes public, if the filing goes public, Donald Trump admitted to some of his friends, to his associates, he knew he lost. But he was going to try to stay in office anyway. He was going to try to convince the public. He was going to lie to the public knowingly in order to try to somehow stay in office. Well, that makes January 6th and all Donald Trump's actions even worse, because it's one thing to sort of lie out of ignorance or because you're narrow-minded and you don't want to look at the evidence and you're absolutely got this feeling that the election was stolen from you. It's quite different, even politically, if Donald Trump knew he had lost, accepted the premise that he had lost, but was so devious and was so anti-democracy that he was going to try to steal the election anyway by blocking the certification. That could be huge politically. And in my view, that would be the final nail in the coffin on Donald Trump in this political campaign.
So 5 p.m. Eastern Time, September 26th was always going to be a dramatic, tense deadline. And the deadline arrived without the drama going away, without cutting the tension. CBS News sources say the Department of Justice's special counsel has met the court obligation and filed this filing by 5 p.m. on Thursday. But all appearances from the court docket and from the court papers is it's under seal, which means it's not public facing. We can't read through it. Nobody outside of the parties involved, the judge's chambers, can read through it.
So all of this stuff matters, and we will see perhaps more once Judge Chutkan releases this brief, which we do expect to happen. Is it going to happen now? Is it going to happen before the election? Is it going to happen after the election? We'll see. But eventually, all of this evidence, we presume, is going to come out if this goes to trial.